Dr. Anthony Fauci joins us now. Welcome back to Primetime. It's good to have you, Doctor, as always. And just to be clear, I'm not asking you about Trump's treatment because, am I right to suggest you didn't have anything to do with his treatment?
That's correct, Chris. I did not. I'm not involved in his primary care.
Okay. Just one step forward in terms of concern about our commander-in-chief. Even if he is getting better, you're going to have to keep, well, not you, they will have to keep monitoring him, right? Just to make sure there's no residual or secondary or long haul. I mean, even if you have a quick spell with great experimental treatment, you still got to be a little worried there, right?
Yeah. Well, Chris, rather than worrying about the long haul, you know, he looks fine, as you can see, the way he looked when he came out of the hospital. The issue is that he's still early enough in the disease that it's no secret that if you look at the clinical course of people, sometimes when you're 5 to 8 days in, you're going to have a reversal. His physicians know a reversal meaning going in the wrong direction and get into trouble. It's unlikely that it will happen, but they need to be heads up for it. He knows it. The physicians know it. So they're going to keep an eye out on it. They're going to try and do that within the confines of the White House as opposed to in the hospital. But yes, you're not out of it until you've gone several days out and doing well. But he certainly does look very well. I mean, you don't need me to tell you that. You saw the way he came out of the helicopter into there. He looked like he was in pretty good shape.
I love that he took the victory lap. I know no clinician would like it, but it made me know that he can't be that sick. So that made me feel better for him and for the sake of being hyper sympathetic. Let me ask you something. How big are you now on the Regeneron treatment? Because something helped this guy beat the curve.
Yeah. You know, it very well could have been that. I mean, the monoclonal antibodies, Chris, are one of the things that we really are, you know, really.
Didn't he get throat surgery? He still sounds like
We've
shit.
Had experience with other diseases. Regeneron monoclonal antibody was one of the 2 types of antibodies that was very successful with Ebola. And the very fact that it was successful in Ebola, another very serious viral infection, had us be cautiously optimistic that monoclonal antibodies, which are a very specific protein that the body makes that you could produce in very large amounts and infuse it into an individual by an IV infusion, has the potential to really be something very, very important in the treatment of COVID-19 patients. The president got that as a compassionate use, and whether or not it was that got him better, I'm strongly suspicious that it was, but obviously you can't prove that until you do a number of studies to show that it actually works. Well, you know, it could have been he was naturally going to turn around anyway, but when you see that kind of a strong
74
turnaround,
years old,
remember
and
he was
general
also
fitness?
Yeah, and you remember he was on remdesivir. I mean, if you're asking me my opinion, I think it made a difference. But whenever you have an N equals 1, you can't prove it. But I think that the monoclonal antibody made a difference, and it is in clinical trial now to try and prove definitively if it works. I hope it works as well as we think it is, but I know from experience that we had in Africa with Ebola that monoclonal antibodies can really do a knockout punch to a virus.
Well, good. I'm just saying, look, people need stuff out here. That's all I'm saying. If it was safe enough to give to him, I know compassionate use, but he's the president. It was really presidential use. I just hope that it creates some urgency. Now, on the urgency side, Doctor, I don't understand. If the FDA says, everybody said the FDA gets to do what it wants to do, the FDA won't be compromised by politics, yada, yada, yada. Now, the White House says, do not slow down the authorization. These new guidelines that might make it not approved before the election, no good. It's got to go. What happened to the FDA gets to do what it thinks is right?
Well, it isn't over till it's over. The FDA has not actually said they're going to slow down. I mean, this is one of those things that the FDA has good reasons for doing what they're doing. They have career scientists who develop these kind of models of what you need to do to assure safety and to assure efficacy. And right now, this is what they said, and we'll see what happens.
The vaccine, there is a politicizing that goes on with it. To be understood, it was going to happen. Nobody, it's expected. But the idea that I'm going to be able, or my kids will be able
Fauci's the first person I've heard talk about the monoclonal antibodies in this way, by the way.
Even if you have some
out of all the
doses,
doctors and all the medical specialists and all the public health experts, he's literally the first person I've heard that, like, talked about how he could truly cure Donald Trump, like, quickly.
Yeah, so let me tell it like it is, Chris. Thanks for the
He also looks like shit.
Right
he looks
now,
really
we have
exhausted, but
5 candidates that are in phase 3 advanced trials, 2 of which went into phase 3, which is a large trial of thousands and thousands of people to determine if it's safe and effective. 2 of those went into phase 3 on July 27th, the Moderna product and the product from Pfizer. We project that by the time we get to November or December, maybe earlier, I don't think it's going to be earlier, but it's still possible it will be earlier. But I think comfortably around November or December, we'll know whether or not the vaccine is safe and effective. I actually am cautiously optimistic from what I've seen about preliminary data in phase 1 that there's a very good chance we'll have a safe and effective vaccine. They've already started to produce doses way before we'll know whether the vaccine is safe and effective. So by the time we get to the end of November, December, there should be some doses that are available for distribution. You're absolutely right. When you have a limited number of doses, like we'll have in November, December, we'll have more in January, more in February, more in March and April, etc. But early on, there'll be a prioritization that is essentially from advisory committees that say that certain types of people, for good reasons, should have priorities. One of them will be healthcare workers. Others will be those individuals who have underlying conditions that put them at a higher risk for getting a serious outcome. Sooner or later, when you get months down the pike, you likely will have enough to get to the normal, everyday, healthy citizen who wants to be protected. That won't be for a few months thereafter. Even though there'll be vaccines there, by the time you get them out logistically and vaccinate people, it'll be several months after that. But there will be vaccines available, likely for some people, limited amount, by the end of this calendar year, the beginning of 2021.
Right, I'm just saying, if we're trying to allay people's fears about coronavirus because there's going to be a vaccine to make it easier for us, us is a very defined term. That's all I'm saying, in terms of on the short side. And even then, it's not one shot, it's 2 shots, right? Am I right about that?
Right, right. Well, most of the candidates are a prime and a boost. One of them, the Janssen product, is just a single shot. But the vast majority of them are a prime and a boost, separated by anywhere from 21 to 28 days.
And do you have enough for the boost on that first group?
Yeah.
All right, good.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so the next concern, the strategy, and I have not seen a redoubling of any effort to improve and increase testing capacity from the federal government. And the specific example will be schools. In reporting all around the country to random school districts, which I do literally on my own time, they are not hearing anything from the federal government. They are closing down schools for 1 or 2 cases. The states are trying to give them resources, but they don't know what you guys know. When will the push come to make it so that my kids aren't teaching themselves at home in a situation that sucks, Tony?
Right.
Tony.
Right. Yeah. Well, Chris, what's happened now is something that I'm not sure you're totally...
Bro, he's calling the guy Tony. The dude is as old as his dad. Like, he's old enough to be his dad. He's like, hey, Tony, Tony, do Tony.
Of those new Abbott Binex, they look like a credit card, point of care, about $5, about 15 minutes to get the result. Much more widely available for schools, for nursing homes. Several tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands are already going out there. But the ultimate goal will be 150 million purchase. And I think there'll be more after that. I'm going to be pushing for more. But the initial one they've already committed to is 150 million of these point-of-care credit card type tests that will be available to do the kind of surveillance that you want to do in schools, places like that.
Now, I appreciate it. I was aware of it. I heard that it has been about to go out and put on hold more than once by the White House. And I am told that Abbott had them. It wasn't that, well, we had to scale up, we had to get there, we weren't ready. They were actually looking for a capital infusion. They say they could have gotten there sooner, according to my sources.
Why does...
So again, what's taken so long?
Well, you know, we've discussed the testing situation a bunch of times, Chris.
Yeah,
I mean, there was
stinks,
issues
Tony.
in the
That's why I'm
beginning.
still
It's
asking
gotten better
you.
and better. Yeah, yeah, I know. But I hope that when we get those 150 million out there, and even more, you know, Chris, I've been saying that we need to flood the system with testing. There are a couple of kinds of testing. There's the testing you do when you want to do identification, isolation, contact tracing to know that a specific person is or is not infected. Then there's another very important kind of testing, surveillance testing, getting out there, getting into the community and finding out what the level of infection is in the community and doing it on a broad scale, whether you do it in schools, whether you do it in colleges, whether you do it in factories. That's what we need to do.
I'm with you. It's just not happening. And I also think that now I'm studying these other countries, and I know you know this stuff, Tony. I mean, you know, I respect your expertise without qualification, and I know you have a great team.
What is
and
this
I know
conversation?
You're seeing these same studies and hearing these other people from around the world who say, you know, the amount of cycles they do, they go too deep. They're picking up all this live virus, but also
you know
dead
your stuff,
virus.
Tony. Like I know my
God, positive. If they reduce the cycles, meaning they didn't look as deeply, they'd get less positives, and that's how they got people back in school. And they do better with schools than we have done, and it's very frustrating because even the 150 million, who knows how long it takes to get them out there? And it seems like it could be better if the federal government wanted it to be better, and I don't understand what's going on.
Right. You know, I'm not sure I can explain because you said a couple of different things there. One about the different cycles to show that someone might not be infected, even though they have a cycle that looks like it's positive. It really isn't positive because there's not a lot of live virus there.
Right.
That's just a different story from what we're talking about right now, Chris. What you're talking about is why don't we have the level of testing that we've always wanted? And multiple times that I've been on, I've said we are doing better and better, which is what we are. But we're not exactly where it is you think we should be, and where, quite frankly, I think we should be. But it is getting better and better. As much as that sounds like another excuse, the fact is we're better off now than we were a couple of months ago, that's for sure.
Let's talk horizon. I know your time is short. What does Thanksgiving look like?
Yeah, you know, it depends on where you are, Chris. I mean, I've always said I have an issue here because our level of baseline number of cases per day is higher than I want to see it. It's stuck at 40,000. There are regions of the country that are looking good. They've done fine. But what we're starting to see now, and we can't run away from it, we're starting to see the Midwest and the Northwest an uptick in test positivity, which tends to be a predictor that you're going to have surges. When you go into the fall and the winter, the weather's colder, you tend to be indoors. When you're indoors, it becomes more problematic to be able to block the transmission of infection. So what I'm saying is that you ask me, what do I see for Thanksgiving? It depends. You know, you divide the country into multiple ways depending upon the amount of infection. There's dark green zones and green zones, which are really good.
The reason why I'm asking is because I'm inviting you.
Probably with some mild precautions.
I'm inviting you over here for Thanksgiving over there.
That very well might be hot. They may
Will
be
you
red
join
zones
my
where there's enough
family,
infection around that
Tony?
you really better be careful when you're
It would be
congregating
an
people,
honor.
particularly indoors. So I say that some people in this country are going to be able to have a relatively normal type of a Thanksgiving. But in other areas of the country, it's going to be, you better hold off and maybe just have immediate family. Make sure you do it in a way that people wear masks where they have, and you don't have large crowds of people. You know, I'd like to say that everything is going to be great by Thanksgiving, but honestly, Chris, I'm not so sure it is. We've got to get that baseline of infection down. We're stuck at 40,000. We got to go below 10,000, way below 10,000 throughout the country, and we got to do it uniformly. I mean, I feel like, you know, I preach this all the time. We'll get there if we do uniform wearing of masks, keeping distance, avoiding crowds, outdoors much more than indoors, and washing your hands. I've been with you on the show multiple times, and I say that over and over again. I know, and if as a country we actually did it, we wouldn't be in the position we're in right now, for sure.
Well, let me tell you, when you have the President of the United States taking his mask off, I know you're not here to talk about it. I know you're not a politician, but you're too honest. But when he comes and he takes his mask off as he's entering a cluster facility, the White House, and says, hey, yeah, don't let COVID, control your life. It's pretty good. I feel better than I did 20 years ago. We wonder why we're stuck at 40,000 cases. How could we not be? We're lucky it's now 50,000. But Dr. Fauci, I appreciate your candor. I appreciate you coming on to set people straight. We are literally desperate for information that we can believe. Thank you very much.
Damn, he caught him in a bind, dude. Tony Tutone, the presidente. He's all al dente over here, what the fuck?